Hi, and welcome back to It's Not Just About the Numbers. Today is the second part of our multi-part series on aligning sales and marketing. Susan Tormullen is going to join me today as we discuss the first of the strategic initiatives, and that being building a strategic partnership between the sales and marketing executives. Susan, what do you think is the most important next step in this process?
It's really all about common vision and the agreement to work together and not be in silos. I mean, to really have strategic change, this vision needs to be supported by all the stakeholders. And for sales and marketing, this means really understanding the interdependence that those two organizations have. If you recall, when you and I first started working together, I already had a marketing plan in place. You had some ideas of what you wanted to do with the sales team. And what we did is we started sharing, and then we sort of set all those good ideas aside and really went back to the big idea, which was what was our goal? What was our common goal? And then we started layering the programs on after that.
I agree. When we sat down, I was looking at it to begin with from my own perspective, and I knew what my sales team wanted, which was essentially a faster path to short-term revenue. But I also knew that you had other goals and that we were going to have to work together to do that. When you began to communicate to your team, what were you telling them and what kind of reaction did you get?
Well, sometimes I think we forget that marketing people want success just as much as the sales team does. And if the sales team is successful, the marketing team is successful. So they were excited about having closer alignment, about getting faster feedback, about actually working hand in hand with your organization. But at the same time, our ability to set very specific goals for them helped my marketers build the programs that were going to be successful.
As I talked to my sales team, it was really key to me that I helped them understand that this really was a true partnership, that we were going to work together to accomplish sales' goals of a fast path to revenue, but also that we were going to look at this more from a strategic standpoint and look at the longer-term goals that were held by marketing. Susan, as you rolled this out to your team, where did you feel resistance?
Well, I had a pretty large team at the time, and we were global, and there were about 18 people reporting into this team. And I'd say maybe 3 or 4 of them were really resistant to this idea. And they had that, well, that's not how we've done it before attitude. So it did require some coaching and a whole lot of communication, both between you and me and out to them. But by 6 months, we were seeing such success with our joint programs that they really came on board. Because like I said, marketers want success. So they ended up coming along on the same path as we were on.
I agree, and I had much the same response for my team on the sales side. Susan and I created a number of questions which we think it would be useful for you to think about as you're building this alliance and thinking it through. First, what are the key trends in the market which you must address to ensure brand differentiation and competitive success?
In our case, we had medium and large enterprises who were deploying tons of printing devices. But for the first time, it was really important that these devices were managed from an IT perspective and from a networking perspective. This required us to understand not only the trend in the marketplace, but also the education that was going to be required to both our target audience and to the sales teams and marketing teams. So for question 2 to think about, what are the revenue and margin requirements of the business?
So our new business was the result of an acquisition, and Hewlett-Packard had very aggressive goals in terms of how quickly this new business would take off and begin to pay back the acquisition costs. We were looking at revenue and margin growth expectations in the range of 20 to 40% annually. What that meant was we had to be very good and very fast at lead generation and bringing these new products to market. So the third question we'd like to pose is, what is the mix of markets, products, and accounts that will produce the desired revenue and margin goals?
This is a super important analysis for sales and marketing to do. In our case, at HP, We had a huge portfolio, multiple hardware devices, multiple software solutions, and we had outsourcing services. And with our teams working together, we were able to identify region by region, territory by territory, exactly what accounts we wanted to target. We were also able to guide the sales team in understanding which products to lead with to help make sure that we close deals as fast as possible, as well as having add-on strategies. Which brings us to our fourth question, which is how will revenue and margin targets be allocated to the key segments?
We were counting on relatively fast growth in the services piece of our business, which is really the new addition, and we were assuming relatively normal or stable growth rates in the hardware and the software pieces of our business, which were already in the market. So that leads us to the fifth question, which is, how will you communicate the existence and intent of the alliance?
Well, I think what's interesting about that is that the rest of the organization, beyond sales and marketing, don't really care if we have an alliance or not, as long as we meet our numbers, right? But it was important for our teams to understand the alliance. And I think we did some things really well. You had me join your management team, and I think for your sales leaders, that was one of the first times they had marketing in on detailed sales calls. And you were located in the same building as a lot of my marketers. And I recall you wandering and doing kind of management by walking around, sitting down, talking. So while we had a lot of written communication that talked about our joint programs and our support of each other's teams, there was also a lot of relationship building in that first year. And because of that, we were able to merge those organizations by year 2 very successfully with relatively no griping whatsoever and continued success.
I agree. That experience was one of the highlights of my career. So that's it for today. We appreciate you tuning in, and we hope you'll comment back and make this a conversation through the comment function of the blog. In our next session, we're going to talk about creating an integrated set of metrics which is going to help you track the progress of this alignment and this strategic alliance between marketing and sales. So this is Jim and Susan signing off and reminding you that
it's not just about the numbers.